Am E-Commerce Day 2025 vom Handelsverband habe ich nun Luca Cassetti, ECommerce Europe, vor mir. Das Gespräch werden wir in englischer Sprache führen. Dear Mr. Cassetti, is it your first time here at the E-Commerce Day in Austria?
It's my first time in Vienna also. So yes, it's my first time, but Handelsverband has been a member of ECommerce Europe for, I would say, at least 5 years. So they're a member of our organization. We're based in Brussels, and Handelsverband is supporting our work on policy making, basically.
Okay, I see. How do you like the event? I mean, it's the main event in this part of business.
I'm doing my best following it with Google Translate because I don't speak very well German, actually, unfortunately, and it works pretty much for me, so I can understand a little bit the trends and the presentations that have been given. It seems quite interesting. Most of the topics that were presented are, I would say, aligned with our priorities also as an organization in Europe. So I would say so far it has been very interesting, and I had the chance also to provide a keynote explaining a little bit the work of ECommerce Europe and what we do for European e-commerce in Brussels.
This is what I would ask you to do for us as well. What is, in a nutshell, very brief, the mission of ECommerce Europe?
Yeah, so ECommerce Europe is a lobbying organization. So I would say 95% of what we do is public affairs and lobbying. So we act at European level to support policymakers in their daily job, which is making new legislation, making sure that what we have as a framework for e-commerce from a regulatory perspective is workable and e-commerce can grow, especially cross-border, because cross-border e-commerce is still lagging behind in Europe. So that's what we do in Brussels with a team of 7 people, including myself. The other 5% of ECommerce Europe is research, so we publish figures. We commission a yearly report on B2C e-commerce covering continental Europe and the European Union. But mostly I would say it's public affairs.
We have a new government in Austria, so that's always the time where every party wants to do their Christmas wishes. In a broad sense, what would you recommend government of Austria to do for commerce or for e-commerce?
I would say for us, our top priority is a European organization, and also, I guess, also for Handelsverband and several other e-commerce associations in Europe, is the question of the level playing field. When I say level playing field, I mean between European-based and non-European-based companies that are selling to consumers in the European Union, basically. We are under heavy pressure by companies based outside the EU, mostly I would say from Asia, who in some cases do not play by the same rules as European-based sellers do. And since there is no enforcement or poor enforcement by the national authorities or the European ones in some cases, what the Austrian government and the other governments all around Europe should do is to focus on enforcement and giving the resources that the market surveillance and the customs authorities need to be able to enforce legislation, and making sure that if you work in the EU, if you sell towards European consumers, that you play by the same rules as European companies. So I would say this is the top priority for now.
Because currently Asian companies tend to, there's some soft rules, let's put it that way, in each country, and they look at it and they find some way around those rules. That's the moment of the game. So you would suggest to have more strict rules, is that true?
No, I'm not suggesting to have stricter rules specifically. We have plenty of rules. Europe is famous for making a lot of legislation. The previous European mandate created a lot of new legislation, much more than the US. And, we are not one single country. Even if you have legislation done at European level, countries implement it in different ways, which is a problem, because when you're an SME or a micro business and you want to sell cross-border online, it's a pain, because it's difficult to, first you have the language barrier, there is nothing you can do about it, it's Europe, but also the legal framework is not exactly the same. So what we are trying to have as ECommerce Europe is a more harmonized framework and a stronger single market. So I'm not saying come up with stricter rules, because if you don't fix the enforcement of those rules, coming up with stricter rules is pointless. So it doesn't matter if you create a much stricter regulation if you're not able to enforce it against a company that is based outside the European Union but is still selling and delivering products to European consumers. So I would say no stricter rules, I would say simplification and more enforcement.
Okay. Second question, e-commerce had a big plus in the last months for the first time since 3 years. In your point of view, is this a general trend through whole Europe, or is Austria a special case?
I mean, I don't remember exactly country by country, but I can give you a little bit the figures that we have at EU level. We had a steady but slower growth after the pandemic. Of course, during the pandemic, e-commerce boomed. That's a logic consequence of lockdowns, I would say. It was foreseen that the growth would go down a little bit. It's not double digit anymore when you take the European Union as a whole. I think that our forecast for 2024, we don't have the final figures yet, we will have them in September. I think our forecast will be around 9% if you take the whole European Union. And if you correct that for inflation, it might be around 5-6%. But if you take inflation into account in 2022 and 2023, turnover didn't grow in Europe because inflation was particularly high in those 2 years. So I would say that we are maybe going back or closer to double-digit growth if you take the whole European Union. But yeah, I think Austria had a double-digit growth, which is quite successful, and so congratulations for that.
We had a big inflation as well, but still above inflation, well above inflation. So one step higher, if you compare Europe to, let's say, America, especially North America, or to Asia, where is e-commerce then?
It's difficult to compare for me. I don't have the figures from Asia or from the US. I think if you go to a country like China, you don't compare e-commerce with retail anymore. It's just omni-channel, and that's also our vision, you know. So the border between online and offline sales is more and more blurred, which is logic, because what consumers want is just to buy. They don't care if they buy online or offline. They just want to have a seamless experience. Maybe they buy online, they return in shop, or vice versa. So it's difficult for me to provide, a comparison, but yeah, I would say e-commerce is thriving in a little bit all over the world, I would say. It is something that is still recent, if you think about it, but the growth rates that we are seeing are definitely positive signs that e-commerce is there to stay, and especially the omni-channel transition is progressing, and this will be the future.
That's a very positive outlook. Thanks for the talk, and have a good time in Vienna. I hope you find some time to visit the city as well.
Next time, maybe, because this time I will not. But thank you very much for the interview. And,